Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm so sorry. I'm eating. It's these sweet coconut, I'm sorry, butter coconut sweet biscuits. They are so good. So I apologize. But I'm here. I'm back because we're still talking about stress. We are still talking about stress. I'm sorry. Please forgive me for coming on. I'm eating, I'm drinking, but I just wanted to have a little snack so that I have some energy. I'm a little tired. So, today, like I said, we are going to finish the conversation about stress. Hopefully, you were able to tune in to what we discussed last week. And there were 3 points made last week. There were 3 points made. The first point that I made was that you have to identify what exactly is causing you stress. There's a lot of times that, excuse me for 1 second. Okay. A lot of times we may have just got so accustomed to stress in our lives. It could be in terms of our relationships, including family, friends, or even significant others. It could be our finances. It could be our jobs or even business. It could be even what's going on in the world. Let's say we watch the news or we're always very, very like tuned in to what's happening, and we just have gotten accustomed to that stress. We have kind of dealt with it. But if you are feeling extremely overwhelmed, if you're feeling extremely agitated or irritated, it's important to figure out, even if your body is showing you signs that you may be having stress. And some of those symptoms or some of those signs that your body's under stress could be headaches, it could be high blood pressure, it could be muscle tension or fatigue, being tired a lot. It could be stomach issues, like an upset stomach, or just going to the bathroom a lot or not enough. And that I'm I'm usually talking about like a number two. So because our stomachs, our gut, and our brain, they are very much connected. So if you go to a doctor and or nurse practitioner and you tell them, hey, these are some symptoms that I'm struggling with, and let's say they run tests or they ask you some other questions and they say, well, I mean, it doesn't seem like anything is wrong. It could be stress. But again, our bodies get used to it. So sometimes we kind of just settle into that feeling, but that doesn't mean that we have to stay there. So we have to identify what's causing us stress, and that way we have a better understanding of how to switch some things up, how to really figure out what the next step is, as opposed to just living in this life where we're very stressed out all the time. So after we identify the stress, we have to try and detach in some way. And of course, detaching depends on where this, like the source of stress is coming from. And detaching does not always mean forever. It can just mean for some time, for some time. So Let's say you notice every time you pick up your phone and you scroll on social media, you just start feeling like overwhelmed, like heart starts racing. You just feel like tension in your body. Like you just notice that whenever you log on to social media and you scroll, your body has this physiological reaction. That might mean that you limit your scroll time. If you scroll, if you would scroll in the past for an hour or 45 minutes, you have to maybe cut it down to like 15 minutes, especially if you're somebody who is, when you do scroll, you're paying attention to a lot of like worldly stuff, what's happening, political stuff, national issues. That can really have an effect on us because that's the world that we live in. So if it's a job, there might be times you have to just step away, take some deep breaths, really center yourself and ground yourself. And even if it's people, if you are in a environment with somebody and you notice the same thing whenever you talk to this person, maybe it's even a good friend of yours, whenever they call you or text you, you just start feeling anxious because maybe whatever they're always coming to you with some stressful information. It's not a problem to say, hey, I can't really talk today. I need some time. So we have to try and detach once we identify what it is. But detaching does not mean forever. Okay. And lastly, we have to discover what relieves our stress. There's a few different options, and this should be a part of our routine so that our body knows that it's going to get that time where it can just relax and really let off some steam. For some people, it might be exercise or running. It could just be moving your body in general, like dancing or walking around. Some people, it's coloring or painting. For other people, it could be meditation or prayer, which really works. It could also be listening to some calming music, bringing up like a website or even something on YouTube that's showing like really vibrant images, not vibrant, but like images that are like calming to the eye. And it could also be, I did mention deep breathing. Okay, that's major. We don't really fully understand how much our breathing affects our bodies, and when we breathe intentionally, how much we uh, how much we put it in a safe space by just breathing and reassuring our bodies everything is okay. So I just wanted to review really quickly from what we discussed last week about stress. But I also want to talk about the stress hormone called cortisol. Cortisol. So the way God designed our bodies, and He is so amazing, but He designed our bodies to really take care of itself. So when our body senses a potential threat, let's say, for instance, this is like a classic example given. You are walking down a alleyway, and it's dark. And maybe you're by yourself or even with friends, but let's say you're by yourself because you, of course, need to always be alert, but most definitely when you're by yourself. So you're walking down this alleyway. It might not even be that late at night, uh, and you hear somebody behind you, and you just immediately feel uncomfortable because you're like, I don't know. It seems like they're picking up their pace, like they're walking fast. So now you're wondering, are they coming trying to catch up to me for whatever reason? So if your body is sensing a potential threat, it's going to immediately kick into fight or flight mode. So that stress hormone cortisol goes up because now when that hormone is increasing, it's now telling the body, I sense a potential threat. I need you to get into gear because you're either going to fight or we're going to take flight, meaning we're going to run. So I'm sure you've heard of fight or flight or fight or flee. That is our body's natural physical reaction. What happens? Our heart rate immediately goes up, our pupils dilate, our blood pressure might go up, and now we're immediately like our body is now immediately put into action to figure out what it needs to do next. Either it needs to fight, so it needs to conserve energy. It needs to actually not only conserve it, but give you more energy because you may have to fight. Or same thing, if you have to take flight, if you have to run, you also need energy for that. So either way, your body is now doing all of these physical things to get ready for it. So I gave you a very descriptive threat that you can imagine. But sometimes we don't always understand that what we're dealing with on a regular basis, especially if it's something that we've been exposed to for a long period of time. It could be finances, it could be everything I said earlier, it could be relationships, it can be people, it could be our jobs, whether it's our coworker or our boss. It could even be friends and family. We don't understand that, yes, it's not the same as a threat in terms of if you were walking down a dark alleyway and think somebody is about to run up behind you, but our body still reacts the same way. So that's why it's important to try to minimize stress so that our body, because what happens is, okay, walking down the dark alleyway in that situation happening where you think somebody's behind you, that's not happening all day or every day. That's a one off situation, but our body is still going to do what it needs to do to protect itself. However, when we are exposed to stress over a regular period of time, now our body is living in that heightened state on a regular basis. Some people have tremors. I mean, if you drink coffee or a lot of caffeine, that can give you some tremors too. And it can, kind of mask or mimic some of those same symptoms like a high heart rate, especially if you maybe have too much caffeine. But let's say you're not a coffee drinker, you're not a soda drinker, you don't have caffeine, but you're like, you notice you shake a lot. That can be a symptom of chronic or long term stress. Because again, stress is normal. Stress, when your body or in your mind senses a potential threat, it's supposed to get into action. It's supposed to kick into gear to protect you and do what needs to be done so you're safe. But when we are living in that state for majority of the time, or our bodies over like it's just in this stressful environment, that's now too much. That's not, the body is not meant to handle that amount of stress because again, the way God designed our bodies, it does compensate for a long time. But the goal is that even if it had to be at, let's say, 100% to get you ready for whatever that threat is, it needs to come back down to like a 10 or 20% so that it can rest. Your central nervous system and your mind and your body can recover and rest. So I hope that made sense, especially when I'm talking about cortisol, the stress hormone. And it's actually a value that your provider, if you talk to your provider and ask about cortisol levels, they may even be able to order you a blood test to see what it is. And let me just see. I just want to confirm something. So I I just want to give you some like definite information. So I knew you could test for cortisol, and based on what I'm looking up now, it's saying that cortisol You can definitely test blood levels for it. It's a common and useful test, especially is in, especially when someone is dealing with stress related symptoms, fatigue, sleep issues, or hormonal concerns. So it says that blood cortisol testing is often used to help evaluate chronic stress or burnout, fatigue that doesn't improve with rest, sleep disturbances, weight changes, anxiety or mood shifts, and suspected adrenal conditions. It does say that cortisol, the levels might fluctuate based on stress, and it says even being nervous about getting your blood drawn, sleep, illness, caffeine, like I mentioned, and medications. So, because of that, some providers also recommend a saliva cortisol test, which uses multiple samples in a day, or a 24-hour urine cortisol, which I didn't even know that, to see overall patterns rather than one moment in time. So it's really good in terms of diagnosing, and of course, it's not wouldn't just be the one test that your provider would use to check for stress. It would be based on the symptoms that you are telling them. It's like a combination. And cortisol, which is the stress hormone, it does follow a daily rhythm. It's highest earlier in the morning and lowest late in the evening. So yeah, I think it's just important that stress is handled appropriately. I think it's important that if you've noticed that you've been a lot more agitated, if you notice that you are sleeping but you're not really getting rest, if you notice that you are having stomach issues and you really haven't struggled with that before, if you're having headaches, if you're having muscle tension, I think it's important to evaluate it. If you notice out of nowhere you start feeling anxious or your heart rate goes up, paying attention to what it can be, saying, okay, 5 minutes ago I was fine, but as soon as I started watching the news, I felt stressed out. I felt like my stress just increased. I mean, that's kind of obvious, right? Like, if, because a lot of times it happens where we're not even totally knowledgeable of it. Our body just kind of kicks into that gear. And then we're like, what's going on? Like, I was fine. Why am I feeling like anxious all of a sudden? And now we have to evaluate that. Oh, wow, I've noticed every time I watch the news, this is what happens. Or every time I scroll on social media for long periods of time, or even short periods of time, this is what happens. So let me see. Okay, let me not do it and see. Because again, if you're noticing these symptoms and you don't feel like you're stressed, that's worth talking to your provider about, because your heart rate shouldn't always be up. You shouldn't always be having headaches. Your blood pressure should definitely not always be high, and you should be able to feel rested when you're getting some sleep. Okay. So I am really at this point passionate. I mean, I've always been passionate about anything health and wellness related, but for this period in time, I really want to keep talking about stress because, again, I feel, have gotten so used to high levels of stress, and we are using substances or things to cope, and we have to get to the root of the problem. Okay, we can't put a band-aid on something and expect to be okay long term. It's not sustainable. That's why a lot of us might struggle with burnout at some point in time. And burnout can happen like at a job or on a job, but burnout could also just be with life, where you feel like you have nothing left to give. And a lot of times it's because we're stressed, we're dealing with high levels of stress, or we're dealing with chronic stress, but we're not getting a handle on it. We're not really saying, okay, I don't want to keep living like this. I don't feel good in my body. I don't feel energetic. I don't feel happy. And happy is a fleeting feeling. You're not going to be happy 24/7. But if you feel most of the time that you're down and you're sad and you're hopeless and you feel burnt out, then it's really worth evaluating or even just starting the process of thinking about it. I also recommend keeping like a journal or a log. If you notice you feel certain symptoms, writing them down. Writing down the day, the time, what you're feeling, and what you might be doing in that moment where when you started feeling that way. And something I think for women, definitely because we are hormonal beings, we definitely need to figure out when, especially during like whatever time of the month we're in, we should be trying to make that connection. Like, okay, I know that my period is coming on this day, and I notice I always feel kind of off or overwhelmed or a lot more in distress the week before. So that's worth paying attention to. And that's worth keeping a log of your symptoms, but also tracking your period. Because with hormonal fluctuations, our bodies, our minds, and our emotions definitely are all involved. So I just think, again, it's important to reiterate that stress in small doses is a normal way of life because it helps us focus. It helps us really get a handle on things and manage things better. However, we are not supposed to feel that way all the time. Okay. So I just want to quickly review the three things from I actually spoke about them last week, but I'll just repeat them this week. The first thing is that you have to identify what is causing you stress. Okay, is it a person? Is it a relationship? Is it a work dynamic or work situation? Okay, is it a habit? Like I said, like scrolling, watching TV, listening to certain music, even, and also, I mentioned it like your phone. Like, are you just scrolling a lot, or are you watching like news related articles and you're feeling extremely stressed? So that's the first step. Identify what is causing you stress. Next, number two, try and detach when you start feeling that way. If you're scrolling on your phone and maybe 10 minutes in, you start feeling a little anxious, heartbeat is going up, you start feeling a little off, choose to put the phone down. And I know I said it last week, and and it was funny, but as I thought about it more afterwards, I'm like, this is so true. I feel like our phones have become our like pacifiers, like our little passies. Whatever, we just sit for a moment. We might have had a long stressful day, and we just pick up the phone, start scrolling. When it's like it's other ways to decompress. Okay, so yes, try and detach. Now again, when it's a person, it's not always easy to detach. If it's your boss, if it's a coworker that you sit next to and you got to sit next to him, hopefully maybe you can move your seat if that's the option. But we have to take charge of what is causing us stress and do something about it. So we may need to detach, and even if it's for 5 minutes, getting up, taking a walk. It's we in wintertime, so it's not always easy to go out and literally take a walk outside, but just do that. Even on your lunch break, say, okay, when it start getting nice out, I'm making it a priority. I have to get up and I have to walk around. I have to go outside, get some fresh air. The blessing is with that. Not only are you detaching, but you're also able to exercise. Getting that heart rate up, and it really will have you going back into work feeling a little more prepared to deal with the rest of the day. And lastly, please discover what relieves your stress. There's so many different things you can do. You can listen to some soothing music. You can bring up some beautiful pictures or images on your phone. You can do some deep or some breathing exercises. You can move your body in a way that feels good to you. That can be running, that could be walking, that can be dancing. It's so many different options. You can start journaling. Not only can you journal by writing things down, but you can also journal by listening to, I'm sorry if you hear that in the background, but you can also journal by using your phone as a video, or even just voice record yourself like a voice note. And you can also color or paint if that's an option. So I'm going to end it here. I hope somebody not getting stressed out because somebody trying to break into their car. Okay, I think the coast is clear. But yeah, so I hope that This was informational. All right. I plan to come back next week, Wednesday at 6 p.m., to continue this conversation about stress. I also want to invite you. I have a free gift for you. So if you go into my bio, you will see a free gift from Coach Ty. And the hint, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but the hint is that it helps with stress. So please go in my bio, get your free gift, be intentional about using it because it works. Okay. The free gift that you are being offered, I use that on a regular basis. So I know that it works. I wouldn't be offering something if it didn't. So please go into my bio, sign up for your free gift. Feel free to reach out to me, Coach Ty, if you want to talk more about this, even if you just want to have a conversation. Okay, I do offer 30-minute wellness checks free of charge where we can check in on your wellness, check in on what's going on with you, and see if there's anything I can do for you. Okay. So please remember, identify what's causing you stress, try and detach, and discover what relieves your stress. Okay. I'll see you next week.